Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show with our host, Bill Shelton. Join us each week as we explore the courses, the people, and the events that shape our great game.
Welcome to this edition of the Michigan Golfer. We're at the Boyne Mountain Resort speaking with Steve Kircher, who is the principal of Boyne USA Resorts. Behind us is a beautiful new facility that's going up, the Mountain Grand Lodge and Spa. And Steve, we want to talk a little bit about that. But this all began in the mid-50s when your dad, Everett Kircher, built a 9-hole golf course up in northern Michigan because when skiing was over, there needed to be something for the staff to do. And from that, you now have 11 courses. Let's talk about those first.
Well, as you suggest, in the mid-50s, one of my dad's good friends, they were sitting on the porch here at Boyne Mountain one summer, and he said, Everett, you know, you need something around here to do for us to come up in the summertime, and a golf course might be it. And they got off their chair, went out and put some poles in the ground and mowed out that afternoon the holes, you know, almost St. Andrews style in the old days. And from there they moved some dirt, and the rest of the summer they had a 9-hole golf course, which existed just about till this last year. And from there, the Highlands was built in the early 60s, and Robert Trent Jones was brought in to be the signature architect at that point, and really ushered in a whole era of resort golf up here. And from there, obviously it grew at both locations. The Alpine was built here in around 1970, and the Moore at Boyne Highlands 2 years later. And then sometime in the early part of the 80s, the Monument, second course here. And then the Ross Memorial, which we spent 6-8 years working on, opened in 1990. And then we invited Art Hills in, and we were very excited about that possibility, and that kind of segued into the Bay Harbor project. We're working on the Hills course of Boyne Highlands, and Bay Harbor was an opportunity we took advantage of in the mid-90s, about 1996, and that kind of built to today. So it's a long road, but we've got a lot of great plans in the future too.
In your dad's biography, when he's talking about building this first 9-hole course, he makes a statement he knew as much about building a golf course as he did nuclear physics. But obviously, through the years, as we know, he's continued to be very active. A couple of interesting ones. One was the concept of the Monument course. That's a special course up here because each hole is named after someone.
Well, and it also not only is named after someone, it embodies many of the architectural principles from around the world of architecture, and we tried to make it a tribute to, thus the name Monument, to both golfers as well as golf course architecture. And it's one of the most diverse looking courses we have, and we've obviously had a lot of fun with it. Dad and I spent a lot of time. I was quite a bit younger in the mid-80s, and it was our first kind of work together. We had Bill Newcomb involved in the routing, and Stephen Kay was also involved, great architect. And Dad's mind, he's an engineer at heart. He's the consummate question asker, and he gets, the innate ability to understand diverse engineering concepts, and golf course architecture really, in some respects, is engineering, creative engineering, and that's really his strong point. So when he brought Jones in and some of the other people, I think he added a lot of knowledge and expertise to what we did, and practical knowledge that made it stand out.
The other interesting course that so many people talk about up here is the Donald Ross course, and I know that I think you and your dad literally traveled to Ross courses everywhere to come up with 18 holes that reflect Donald Ross architecture.
Yeah, that was truly a fun experience for myself, and I know Dad, that was at the period of time, if you remember, when the Bear was built, and many of the Pete Dye courses with railroad ties. The real modern architecture was taking hold, and it was almost a kind of a shooing aside of the old. And Dad felt in about 1984 that we needed to do something to bring back the great architect, Donald Ross, and really give the public, not a private person, the public the ability to play great Ross courses. So we did in fact fly around, and we picked 100 holes that we liked, and 18 of them fit the terrain at Boyne Highlands, and 6-7 years later, the Donald Ross Memorial was opened up. It was that was a labor of love for all of us.
And then you talked about certainly Arthur Hill's new course, and that's a great one, but the resort Bay Harbor and some of the things, that's received raves all over the world.
Well, we were lucky enough, obviously, to have a great piece of land. Anytime you get 2-3 miles of frontage on a lake or an ocean, you've got the opportunity to do something special, and that has even more diversity than probably just any coastline course with the quarry and the natural attributes that were there because of the old cement plant. So it was a very exciting project. Art Hills is a genius, and what he did with that and the team, it was a lot of fun, and I think we're pretty proud of it.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Steve about some future projects and some new golf operations that he's got going here. But first, let's take this break.
Legends beckon me to follow in their steps through historic stands of towering pines, among shimmering banks of heather. Visit www.michigan.org for information about Michigan golf packages and courses. Legends beckon me to play forever, and I follow them to Michigan.
We're back with Steve Kircher at Boyne Mountain Resorts, and behind us is the Mountain Grand Lodge and Spa, under construction, a 4-star condominium hotel, and it's just part of a larger plan, a Renaissance plan you have for the whole area. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a multi-step process, and we call it the Renaissance, of kind of redefining what Boyne Mountain is, from a 4-season resort that it was to a truly 4-season resort village. And the core area is going to be one of the coolest Swiss-Austrian villages anyone's seen. It's anchored by the new Mountain Grand Lodge and Spa. We've got a number of new amenities: fly fishing, the chairlift rides to the top, the mountain biking, water park for kids in the summertime. Obviously, the skiing is a heartbeat of the winter. We also expand the golf, and we were lucky enough to have Pete Dye as our next architect. He'll be probably the first and only time Pete Dye will show up in northern Michigan, and we're very excited about that.
Your dad made the observation that apparently the course starts at the bottom of the hill and goes downhill from there. So tell us a little bit about the routing, because he said it's difficult for him to understand.
Well, we've been debating, the history of Boyne Mountain was, and talk about Dad being kind of an out-of-the-box thinker, he started the golf course at the top of the mountain in a 1.5-mile cart ride to the top. And that's been very popular, allowed the 2 existing courses to be routed in that manner. We've decided with the Pete Dye course, the piece of land is so good, and we think that if it's routed properly and with the caliber of terrain and the architect, that we could have national tournaments here. Thus, we got to make sure it's a walkable golf course. So we're going to start and end this at the Pro Shop area, and so it'll be different than our current Boyne Mountain routings. It'll have some terrific terrain changes, but not such that will inhibit it from holding a major tournament potentially.
Speaking of that, you had early on when skiing was the primary, maybe the only function here, you had ski weeks. And Boyne is known for their golf weeks now, and it's such a tremendous deal. Tell us a little bit about that and how it came about.
Well, obviously, because we came from the psyche of the ski operation, we really said, how can we redefine golf schools and get people involved socially in the sport of golf? And the Super 5 Golf Week became that gestation, and we were able to put together a package that's midweek. Obviously, it's a little bit off time for us, that is an extraordinary value, under $800 in most cases, around under $1,000 in some others. And it's an unlimited golf-a-thon. I mean, you can take lessons the whole week, you can play golf the whole week. It includes all the food, and there's tournaments and a lot of social events. And it really embodies what we were able to create over 40 years with the ski side in the golf. And we've got families coming, kids come up in the junior camps while their parents are in the Super 5 adult camps. And we're putting some 1,800 people through each summer, and that's going to grow the sport.
Knowing that the Michigan Golfer TV show is seen around the world, you also have courses in some other states.
Yes, we're in Montana. We have a golf course, Arnold Palmer course in Montana at Big Sky. We've got a golf course in Naples, Florida, Boyne South. And that pretty rounds out the Boyne spectrum of the golf side, but we're certainly in it in a big way here in Michigan.
When will we expect the Lodge and Spa completed and the Pete Dye course open?
Well, for golfers, the Lodge and Spa will be open the summer of 2003, and Phase 1 of the village will be substantially done then as well. The Pete Dye course is probably, obviously it depends on how our winters go and whatnot, but we expect it by 2005. In that range to be fully open. You may see 9 holes open before that, but we take our time and do it right.
That's great. Well, 11 courses are not enough. We need 12 in Boyne USA Resorts. we'll have that 12th course in the near future. Thank you, Steve, for visiting with us from Boyne Mountain. This is this edition of the Michigan Golfer. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time.